Alright, boys, girls, and cucks whose genders I just assumed. We're getting into a touchy topic today. The topic of addiction. And what do I mean? Well, of course I was going to make a clickbaity title on this video so I could really hit the feelings of the people who really always push that phrase that addiction is a disease. I mean, it kind of is, but also kind of isn't. And I'm going to get into that. And like I said, I'm a provocateur. I'm a provocateur in chief of this channel. I've also been provocateur for another channel. And that's just my job to get attention. So let's get down to it. The drug epidemic in the United States is bad. Like, really bad. Especially in West Virginia. In West Virginia, it's basically the capital of the drug epidemic. And the two major cities that have a really bad drug problem in West Virginia are Wheeling and Huntington. It's bad. And usually, so many people a day are taken in just for an overdose. And I don't think people are seeing the impact of using addiction as a disease as an excuse. I don't think it needs to be used as an excuse. Scientifically, it is a disease, but that doesn't really give it a right to be considered an excuse. A disease is something that happens to your body that you don't really necessarily have any control over. There are treatments for it a lot of times, or there's cures, or it's just a lifelong thing. But the thing is, addiction is more of a synthetic disease. It's something that is born out of choice. That's how I see it. Addiction is whenever you take a substance that alters the chemistry of your brain that causes you to become dependent on a certain substance. You see this with nicotine and tobacco products. You see this with THC in marijuana or acid or the psychedelic stuff in mushrooms, and even stuff like fentanyl that is found in heroin. You got the opiates and whatnot, all that stuff that is bad. And like I said, scientifically it is a disease because of what it does to the body. And it's even listed in the DSM-5, I think. It's either DSM-4 or DSM-5. I can't be exact. But the thing is, I call it a synthetic disease because it's really born out of choice. So here's the thing. No one chooses to have PCOS, which it could be considered a disease, if you want to use a negative connotation. And people have no control over that. But addiction, I have a different idea about addiction. I don't think it should be used as an excuse. I really don't. Because it all starts with the substance you decide to take. Because you can't blame it, oh, this is something genetic. No. Take responsibility in your life for once in a while. Because I'm tired of hearing that argument all the time. And it's so bad that high schools in West Virginia are stocking up on Narcan. That's bad. Especially bad. That teachers are even being vocal about mental health awareness. That there needs to be something done to help it. See, why do I say addiction is about mental fortitude? Because I am going to draw a comparison between my parents and myself. See, my mother was a drug addict. My father was an alcoholic. And this happened sometime after they divorced, whenever I was a teenager. So, of course, divorce is going to affect you pretty hard because you just broke things off with someone that you've been with for quite a while. It's going to hit you hard. But there's also a lot of people who go to drugs are a bit weak. And why do I say it's because evolution. Evolution is usually spawned through natural selection. Natural selection just removes the weak. That's what it is. And to survive natural selection, to make sure it never gets you, it's not just about being strong, but it's also about being smart. It's about being resilient. That's how I see things. So, how do I want to say this? I said, my mother had to deal with addiction for years. My dad had to deal with alcoholism for years. And they kept telling me that I had the addictive traits. I don't. They said, you stay away from this because you're likely going to get addicted to it. And the thing is, I've smoked before. I've drank before. I never got addicted because I just saw no point to just continuing it further. I saw no point. I'm like, at no point in my life was like, yeah, I want to make this alcohol dictate my life. That was never the case. Because I've been caught smoking several times and like, going to get addicted. I'm like, yeah, how come I can just quit smoking cold turkey while you're still smoking, claiming you were trying to quit with a fucking vape? Explain that to me. Because considering that I'm an adult and I can get alcohol and tobacco anytime I want, I don't. Because I already had to see what that did to my family. And I'm just one of those that doesn't see importance in all the vices that people so dearly love. Like I said, I can look at a bottle of whiskey or a bottle of vodka or any bottle of alcohol and I'm just going to think, meh. I just don't think about it whatsoever. Drinking is fun if you do it with friends. But if you do it alone, it's pretty sad. That, and it has potential to derail to where you either get alcohol poisoning or you just go off the deep end. And see, that was never the case with me. I've smoked. I thought nothing about it. With everything, I can just easily quit things. I don't have the addictive trait. So I just think it just didn't get past me genetically. Because I don't really think it's a genetic thing. I think it's a mental fortitude thing. My brother at one point was addicted to cocaine. I think that was also a fortitude thing. Because that was also at a vulnerable spot of his life. Going on. It amazes me how they try to say this. And to me, I think saying that addiction is a disease is a sociopathic behavior. Why? Because it's not taking responsibility for your actions. That's how I see it. We're not trying to say that it's not a disease as in we're denying science. We're trying to say it's not a disease and as in it's not an excuse for what you've done. That's what we're trying to say. Drugs make people go crazy. It legitimately does. I'm not the only one who's had to deal with it in my life. I've had friends that have had to deal with it. They hate drugs. They're not going near drugs. A lot of experiences that people with have drugs turns them completely off to drugs and alcohol. It turns them away. It scares them straight in a sense. Another thing, like my view towards alcohol, tobacco, whatnot, is just like my view towards sex. I don't really see much of the importance. I mean, drinking can be fun, but only if with friends. Sex can be fun, but only if it's with the person you love. If it's not, it's just sad friends with benefits. That's what it is. I don't see how it's such a big fucking deal. That is my opinion. So, why do I say sociopathic? Like I said, not taking responsibility for action. You're just blaming it on this thing as if your body is the thing and blaming it on genetics. Genetics really had nothing to deal with it. Yeah, it alters your DNA, but I think that for it to be passed down genetically, you have had to do drugs before or during pregnancy. Because after all, you see babies with fetal alcohol syndrome that were born from alcoholic mothers, or the crack-addicted babies that were born from drug-addicted mothers. And it's a sad sight. It really is. And the thing is, there's also, I've had this argument too much. It's like I've gotten into my arguments before, and I'm like, you did this because you were addicted, and I did not like it. And they're like, I had no control over it because it's a disease. That's just something that ticks me off as a statement because I really can't stand the phrase addiction is a disease. That's my experience with it. And I'm never going to say that if your family has had an addiction disease, I don't think you're necessarily going to have it. You're not predisposed to it. It's all about mental fortitude. If you have had to go through experiences or you just don't think anything about it, you're not going to get addicted. Why? Because that's you. Your family should really have no bearing on your choices. Because really, if you let something control you easily, drugs will control you easily. However, if you maintain resiliency and control over your life, you're never really going to get addicted. Not in that sense. Not the vices. You can get addicted to good things, but we're talking about addiction as in the bad stuff. Anyone gets addicted to the good things, but those are not legitimate addictions. Legitimate addictions are the ones where you are fully dependent. Like I said, I've smoked, never got addicted. I've drank, never got addicted. At one point, I thought, when I turned 21, I'm just going to drink a bunch. That did not end up happening. One time over the summer, I was just getting ready to drink from a bottle. Because I had a panic attack. And I unscrew the lid. And I'm just looking at it. I just can't drink because, one, I'm scared. And two, because there is no sense to it. I'm like, how is this going to affect me? Does this make anything better? It does not. Why? Because I actually have common sense on this, and I'm rather smart. And you're probably going to be saying, Dash, you're an idiot, because addiction is a disease. They have no control over what they're doing. Really, addiction, while it is a disease scientifically, it starts out with a choice. No one is predisposed to it based on how they were born or what is inherited. It all starts with a choice, and it's based on the resiliency of your mind. That's what I believe it to be. But no, people are just going to resort to the ad hominems or say I don't know shit because I never got addicted. Well, I'm never going to get addicted, but I'm going to have the common sense to never get addicted. I'm not going to teach my future children that addiction is a disease. I'm going to tell my children that addiction is bad. And I will tell them that if they get addicted to drugs, that's their fault. But I'm going to tell them not to. I'm going to raise them in a household where they should legitimately fear drugs and alcohol. Because that's what any good parent does, is teach your kids to stay away from bad things and to make sure they don't go through. If you raise your child in an authoritative household, while they have freedom, they're also disciplined enough not to be stupid. That is based off of developmental psychology. Really, I'm not going to tell them addiction is a disease. I'm going to tell them that they should fear substances and that they should stay away from them. And I would teach them that there is no need for them, so why even bother? And I hope that my future kids never in their life ever get addicted. I'm pretty sure no parent wants that at all. I'm quite sure of that. Because after all, you're raising a kid, you don't want to think, like, imagine you're a parent and you have to think about this and like, I would be extremely worried if my child were addicted to crack. Everyone worries about that. Except, unfortunately, the mothers that gave birth to crack-addicted babies don't whatsoever. And that's like one of the most morbid aspects of this life. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I gotta quit rambling because I'm going on repeat mode. I just gotta fucking stop. Yeah. Really, when it comes down to the basis of what's being said about addiction, a disease, we gotta stop saying that. And of course, I have a provocative title. That's the point. I'm not saying addiction is not a disease. I'm just saying that pointing out that addiction is a disease should not be used as an excuse for your shitty behavior of taking drugs. Stop playing the victim. You know who's the victim of drug abuse? The people that are directly affected by the person taking drugs. That's how I see it. Because while you're doing drugs, you're destroying the lives of people around you. I developed attachment anxiety about it. Yeah, that's going to piss someone off in my family, but you know what? Don't care. Like I said, you don't get to dictate who's the victim when it's the thing that's done with you. A lot of sociopaths make it about them. They try to make themselves a victim. I'm not calling people sociopathic. I'm just saying that's a sociopathic-like behavior. And that's the sort of thing that's brainwashed. And I think that's something that's being taught because we're trying to keep people under this mindset so that they can further be controlled through drugs. That's how I see it on a much bigger level. Yeah, I'm getting into conspiracy theory territory, but it's something I've been able to observe. And as always, like the video if you want to. I don't care. If you want to see more videos of me talking about current events or important issues or politics, subscribe to the channel for more content. Otherwise, I'm Dash Island.